See some of these games. All right. So I was talking to Brian off stream a little bit about these particular teams. So I want to focus a lot on the AFC because the AFC playoff picture is up in the air. We really can't definitively say who's going to go to the Super Bowl. We can't even definitively say who's going to win in the wild card round. But I want to talk about these teams because I've been going back and forth with these teams in terms of who's the better team, who is going to go on a run in the playoffs. I'm looking at Jacksonville. I'm looking at Houston. I'm looking at Denver. I'm looking at Buffalo. These are the teams I'm really looking at that I'm grouping in because all four teams outside of Buffalo, who has a superstar at quarterback, the other three teams have game managers. Let's just say it. They're game managers. Very limited. I would probably have Trevor Lawrence as the best quarterback of the three between Bo Nix and CJ Stroud. And I would say that I think Jacksonville, their offense is a little bit better. It's a little bit more dynamic than a Denver and a Houston because I think Trevor Lawrence is more dynamic of a player than both of them. I think Trevor Lawrence has better arm talent. I think Trevor Lawrence is a little bit better of a scrambler and a little bit better off schedule than both quarterbacks. I think he's also a more accurate thrower of the football than both quarterbacks. Would you agree?
Yeah. After what I've seen this year from Trev, he really turned it around. So yeah, I'll say that.
Yeah, because the film that I watched, although it was the Titans, I have to put that out there. I was very impressed. Although there was times where you know he missed some reads, he misread some things. He went off of his first read too quickly and he started scrambling. But again, these are game managers. These are not guys that are superstar quarterbacks. They're limited in what they can do. But I think Trevor Lawrence overall, I trust him more than CJ Stroud and Bo Nix. I think he's a little bit better. And I think Jacksonville has the best offense of the three teams. And I think Liam Cohen is I think as a play caller, he's on par with Sean Payton in this stage of his career. So that's
Interesting.
where I'm at with it. But let me get down to business. Okay. I watched Jacksonville, I watched the Texans game, I watched film of both. I think Jacksonville is better than Houston. Yeah, I said it. I said it. Here's why. I don't trust Houston's offense. I know they put up 38 points, but that first half, when CJ Stroud was in at QB, they scored like 20 points. But that passing offense, I'm not a believer. I don't believe that the offensive line can consistently block for CJ Stroud in the playoffs against really good defenses. Um, and I also am a bit concerned with CJ Stroud accuracy, his ability to read the field after his first read. I think CJ Stroud is mostly a first read quarterback. I think you take away his first read, he's cooked for the most part. I think the accuracy is a concern. I think I don't even think he's good. I don't even think he knows really how to adjust adjust protection. There was a play during the game where it was a four-man rush. It was a disguise coverage where they were disguising either they were disguising like they were sending five or six, but really they had some of those guys as in coverage. And CJ Stroud, he had a six-man protection. He had a running back protected him, and he couldn't identify the coverage at all. And one mistake that he made was that he told the running back to go towards the left side instead of the right side. And by doing that, it freed up a rusher. And the rusher was easily able to get to CJ Stroud on a six-man protection. And it's only four rushers. So I'm concerned with CJ Stroud. I don't think he truly has grasped how to master um, pass protection adjustments. I also think he's a one read quarterback. He's not as dynamic as Bo Nix or Trevor Lawrence as a scrambler, as a what you call it, as somebody that's off script. I just think he's very limited as a quarterback, and I think the play calling. I'm still a bit concerned with the play calling. I know they improved, but some of the film that I watched, like there was one play they did a screenplay, and it was two blockers, but there was three guys that you have to block. You had a receiver that was catching catching the pass, and there was only two blockers, but there was three guys that you needed to block, and it went for -3 yards. And I just think there's just too much red flags on this offense, regardless of how much they improved, regardless of the win streak that they've been on, for me to feel confident enough that they can go on a run. Now, I think they're going to win in the playoffs against the Steelers. I think they're going to handle the Steelers because the Steelers are not a good team. But the next round, whoo, good luck. Good luck. And I think, okay, you know what? I'll let you talk. Because I'll talk about the Cardinals a little bit later. But what is your thoughts on what I just said?
CJ Stroud, he's a QB that I really like and liked coming out of the draft. I still like him now, even though the offensive line is putrid. And he does have some moments where I'm like, buddy, what the heck was that? Like sometimes he just makes bad decisions. Like I believe it was that one game. I want to say it was against the Chargers. Yeah, it was the Chargers. And he just threw an interception that was just a boneheaded pass. I think it was to Derwin James. I was like, what were you even looking at? It was like two dudes over there. So I think CJ Stroud's biggest problem is that he doesn't fully trust his offensive line. So when things start getting crazy, he has to go past his first read. It's kind of like, whoa. He just starts getting antsy, and then that forces him to speed up his clock and make bad throws at times. But it's not like I can't trust him with the game or anything like that. I think like we've seen him win 2 playoff games. And granted, the defense was a big part of that against the Chargers. He still took care of the ball, still was safe within all of that. So I'm not too worried about CJ Stroud. What I am a little interested in, there's a stat. And this just shows you how dominant the Texans defense is. But the Texans defense is last place in the league in defense variance. Meaning that they give you the same, they're not doing a bunch of different looks like how a Brian Flores defense would do, or these other more complicated defenses where they just throw a bunch of looks at you. You're going to have to force the QB to figure out. They just going to line up and beat you. Now, when you're going against the guys like the Liam Cohens, and you're going against the Sean Paytons and stuff, who are these offensive gurus, so to speak, I wonder if they'll be able to manipulate that or use that to their advantage, because if your dudes aren't winning straight up, then what are you going to throw as a counter to what the offense is doing if they're getting success with it? So that's the one thing I'm interested in seeing, because I don't think they just try to play them honest and be like, oh, our guys are better than their guys. You're going to get shredded, because that defense is putting up better statistical numbers than the Legion of freaking Boom. So that is a defense you need to be very fearful of. So you're going to have to scheme up something crazy or hope they have an off night, because trying to beat them just man-on-man ball, it ain't happening. So that's what I'm really concerned about, because there has been times the Texans have been giving up some yardage deep, like the Chargers at one point. They was getting into a groove offensively, and they was able to score and repeat drives and stuff. So, yeah, man, if anything, I think the Jags really could knock off the Texans, honestly. If you get a good game from Trev, I think that could happen, because the Jags defense aren't slouches either. They've been playing really solid as well. I wonder who their defensive coordinator is. I don't know. But whoever it is, he's been doing a heck of a job. And Liam Cohen, he's really turned Trev's trajectory around. Because before, people were trying to tell him that he needs to get benched earlier in the year. I remember.
Mm-hmm.
But Trev, he's been lights out. And mind you, this is doing all this without Travis Hunter.
That's a good point.
So I feel like the Jags do need a little more
love.
Yeah, from national media.
Yeah. My concern isn't that the Texans aren't going to win in the wild card. I think the Texans are going to win going away because
I think that game will be closer than people think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? I don't think so.
Like that game might not get past 30 points total.
Oh, I agree there. I don't think it's going to be a great offensive performance from both teams, but I do think that Texans defense is going to rattle Aaron Rodgers in that offense. The Steelers are not a serious football team. We saw that against the Ravens. Both of those teams are unserious football teams. And I just think come the playoffs, like what we've seen from Mike Tomlin coach teams the past all the way the past 10 years, his teams are unserious. And I think against the Texans, I think they're going to continue to be unserious. I think they're going to win going away. It's going to be a slugfest, but I can expect, I won't be surprised if it's like 20-10 or 20-7. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the end of the game.
I'm thinking like 13-7 or something like that. Because
you think it's that ugly?
Yeah, because
wow.
Because it's not like the Steelers can't generate like Lamar's playmaking ability and the way that him being able to extend plays really helped out the Ravens D, because TJ Watt and those guys on the D line definitely was making things difficult. Cam Hayward was whooping whoever they put on him on the interior. So it's not like they couldn't do much on these. Just Lamar's just fantastic, and they were just able to generate a lot of broken plays and stuff. But the Texans line is worse than the Ravens, which is saying something. And CJ Stroud is not as mobile as Lamar Jackson. I don't trust him to do all of that stuff. Lamar, like you said, he's a game manager.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want him doing all that fancy extra stuff. So, and I don't believe their weapons are like great either. I say they're on par with the Ravens outside of the tight end position, because Dalton Schultz, he ain't doing what Isaiah Likely did in that game on Sunday. But Nico Collins is good. They got to get, that's the thing. They got to get Nico Collins more involved. He goes so many stretches in the game, and you're like, is he even on the field? So they got to get Nico Collins involved, and they got to get the ball to their playmakers, man, in space, because a lot of times I'm just watching that Texas offense. I'm like, this isn't great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have. Oh, yeah. By the way, I see the comment. Texans ain't, you know what? Just so you know, dome teams are 1-14 under 40-degree weather. Not to mention the Steelers are undefeated on Monday night at home. But hey, choose the Texans. I mean, if you want to do it that way, if you want to go the casual route, then by all means. But first of all, that stat, is that for the regular season? Like, I'm wondering, where's that stat come from? Because I heard that stat, but I don't know exactly. Is it the playoffs? Is it the regular season this year? I don't know. So
Derby, I really can't. Did you put $100 on the Steelers money line? If you that confident, I need to see a slip of a screenshot of you putting $100 down on them.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand that one. So, anywho, I have a stat I want to show, a graphic actually. This is from PFF. Surprisingly, PFF allowed us to show their offensive line ranking, but I want to show a little bit about the Jaguars and the Texans now. They say Jacksonville is the 24th ranked offensive line, and then they say the Houston Texans is the 27th. Regardless of how much they've improved this season, they still believe the Houston Texans have a bottom 5 offensive line for the season. So that just lets you know that regardless of how good the Houston Texans have been winning, there's still a concern regarding that offensive line. And I was looking at something else as well, and I'll show you this. Let me see here. And this is rushing yards per game. The Houston Texans are at the bottom half of the league. They're 22nd in rushing yards per game. And you know my thing. If you have a game manager at quarterback, if you're a limited passing offense, the one thing you have to be able to do is run the football, especially when you have a great defense. And that's really a concern for me is the fact that they have a great defense, they have a mediocre passing game, and they don't have a good rushing attack. That's what I'm concerned of. But again, I still think regardless of all the limitations, I believe this Houston Texans team is still going to beat the Steelers convincingly.